The cold light of Zyra 7 orbiting sun reflected off the jagged hulls of abandoned ships. Most of them were broken beyond repair, left to drift in silence. Rust streaked the metal like old scars. Among these relics floated the SS Harbinger, a warship from a time when humans still dreamed of expansion and conquest. Now it was forgotten. Its engines were dead, its weapons rusted, and its metal hull bore the scars of decades. Everyone said it was useless, a relic meant to die in peace. But Eli Voss didn't see useless. Eli moved along the maintenance platform, boots clanking against the steel. He ran his gloved hands along the hull of the Harbinger, feeling every dent, every scar, every imperfection. "You're not dead," he murmured. "Not yet." He had grown up on Zyra 7, a fringe colony on the edge of human space. Life here was harsh. Resources were scarce and hope was rarer. Most people had left years ago. The Chiron Collective, a cold and calculating alien species, had pushed humanity back to the inner colonies, claiming that humans were weak and primitive. The abandoned warships, the decaying stations, the silent factories, all were evidence of humanity's retreat. But Eli saw possibilities where others saw ruin. He was a mechanic, one of the best in the sector. People whispered that he could fix anything: engine cores, navigation systems, even machines long thought dead. Some called him crazy. Eli didn't mind. He liked being underestimated. The Harbinger was massive, its design archaic compared to modern human ships. It had been built for war, but the wars it was meant to fight were long gone. Eli climbed up the access ladder, pausing at the main hatch. The metal creaked under his weight, groaning like it remembered its glory days. With a deep breath, he forced it open. Inside, the ship smelled of dust, rust, and old coolant. The lights flickered weakly when he activated the emergency power, casting shadows across the control panels. Screens were cracked, buttons were missing, and wires hung like vines. Yet in the dim glow, Eli saw something beautiful. The Harbinger still had potential. He ran a hand over the main console. "You've got life in you yet," he whispered. A small smile tugged at his lips. "We just need to wake you up." For hours, Eli worked alone, crawling through the corridors, examining the engines, checking the shields, tracing circuits with worn tools. Zyra 7 orbital station was quiet, mostly abandoned. Occasionally, he heard the distant hum of drones, maintenance bots left over from years ago. Eli ignored them. He had a plan. The Chiron didn't care about this part of space. To them, humans were weak and scattered. They had bigger conquests elsewhere. Zyra 7 was a forgotten rock in the void, a place where nothing dangerous could be born. They were wrong. Eli began cataloging what the Harbinger needed. Parts were missing, some long gone, others buried beneath layers of rust. Engines had to be rebuilt, power conduits rewired, weapons systems overhauled. Every repair would be a challenge, but Eli thrived on challenges. He loved impossible things. "Why do you bother?" a voice asked behind him. Eli jumped slightly and turned. It was Mara, a fellow human who had stayed behind on Zyra 7. She was younger, energetic, and curious, with a knack for electronics. "Because it can still fly," Eli said simply. "It was made for war. I don't see why it should die just because everyone else forgot it." Mara laughed softly. "Everyone says it's useless. Even the Chiron wouldn't touch it if they saw it." "Exactly," Eli said. "That's why it's perfect." Together, they moved through the ship, taking stock of what could be salvaged. Eli had always loved working with humans. There was a rhythm to it, a mix of intuition, improvisation, and stubbornness that no machine or alien could replicate. While the Chiron relied on logic and rigid strategies, humans could adapt, imagine, and create from scraps. Hours passed. Eli and Mara worked quietly, using whatever parts they could scavenge from the wrecks around Zyra 7. They repaired broken circuits, replaced corroded metal, and patched up small leaks in the hull. The Harbinger groaned and creaked as if testing its new limbs. It was alive again, slowly, cautiously, but alive. When they paused for a break, Eli looked out of the observation deck at the empty void. Stars sparkled cold and distant. In that emptiness, humans seemed fragile, but Eli didn't think humans were fragile. He thought they were stubborn, relentless, resilient. Suddenly, the quiet hum of the orbital station changed. A distant ping echoed across the sensors. Mara's eyes widened. That's a Chiron probe," she whispered. Eli moved to the console, scanning the incoming data. A small patrol had entered Zyra 7 sector. The Chiron had not been monitoring this area closely, assuming nothing of value remained. But even a patrol meant trouble. "They'll see what we're doing," Eli said. "We have to hurry." Mara nodded. "Do you really think this old ship can fight them?" Eli smiled faintly. "It doesn't have to fight yet. It just has to survive long enough for us to make it something they can't ignore." The Chiron patrol moved closer, their sleek black ships glinting in the distant sunlight. Eli and Mara worked faster, improvising repairs, rerouting power, and testing old engines. Sparks flew, warnings blinked, but Eli never panicked. He had faced worse. As the patrol scanned the area, a small emergency flare lit up from one of the station's observation points. A Chiron drone hovered, analyzing. Its sensors scanned the Harbinger, marking it as obsolete, harmless. Eli allowed himself a small grin. "They still don't understand us," he muttered. Mara looked worried. "Eli, if they decide to attack." "They won't," Eli said. "Not yet. They think we're weak. They think this ship is dead. And that's exactly why we'll survive." For the first time in decades, the Harbinger stirred. Its engines hummed faintly. The ship shivered as power ran through circuits that had been silent for years. Lights flickered across the control panels. The weapon bays opened with a low creak. It was still fragile, still incomplete, but it was alive. Eli ran his hand over the main console again. "Tomorrow, we start reforging you. Tomorrow, we make them notice." Mara smiled, shaking her head. "You really are crazy." Eli laughed softly. Maybe I'm just human." Outside, the stars continued to shine, indifferent to human struggles. But on Zyra 7, in the shadow of forgotten ships, a single human mechanic had begun to rewrite what the galaxy believed about humanity. One ship, one stubborn mind, and one spark of determination. Somewhere far away, the Chiron patrol scanned and moved on, still unconcerned. They had no idea what was waking in the orbit of Zyra 7. The Harbinger waited, patient and silent, ready to rise again. And Eli, the mechanic who refused to give up, had no intention of letting it die. In the vast emptiness of space, a single thought echoed. Humans never stay down for long. The first rays of Zyra 7's sun glinted off the Harbinger's battered hull. Inside, the air smelled of metal, oil, and determination. Eli Voss moved quickly through the corridors, tool kit in hand. The ship had survived decades of neglect, but now, under his guidance, it would live again, not as a relic but as a weapon of human ingenuity. Mara followed him closely, carrying wires and spare components. "How do you even know where to start?" she asked, eyebrows furrowed. Eli smiled without looking up. "You start where it hurts the most." He pointed at the main engine chamber. "Engines. Without them, we're just a fancy tomb floating in orbit." The engine room was a cathedral of rust and decay. Massive cylinders hung from corroded struts. Panels were missing. Wires twisted like snakes through the cavernous space. Eli examined each part with practiced precision. Even a ship this old had secrets, and he intended to unlock them all. "Look at this," Mara said, pointing to a cracked conduit. Sparks danced when she touched it. "It's fried." "Not fried," Eli corrected, "just asleep." He tapped the conduit. "We'll reroute power around it, and in no time it'll be stronger than before." Over the next hours, the two worked tirelessly. Eli improvised parts from broken drones, scrap metal, and whatever else he could find on Zyra 7. He welded, rewired, and replaced components, sometimes speaking aloud to the ship as if it could hear him. Hold together for me, he murmured. Just a little longer. Mara watched, impressed. You really think this old thing can fight the Chiron? Eli's eyes gleamed. It's not about what it was built to do. It's about what we make it do. Humans always find a way to turn nothing into something. That night, the orbital station was quiet. The Chiron had no reason to patrol so far out, leaving Zyra 7 undisturbed. Eli and Mara worked by the dim glow of emergency lights, surrounded by the hum of machinery and the occasional hiss of escaping steam. They moved to the weapons systems next. The turrets were frozen, the targeting computers dead. Eli ran his hands over the control panels, feeling the grooves, the buttons, the memories of battles long past. He carefully replaced old circuits, rewired damaged power lines, and installed sensors salvaged from other derelict ships. This ship isn't just a fighter, Eli said, tightening a bolt. It's smart, adaptive. It can think in ways the Chiron don't expect. Mara raised an eyebrow. You're giving it personality now. Call it instinct, Eli replied. Humans and machines have more in common than they realize. And the Harbinger, it's going to be a human in a ship's body. By the second day, the Harbinger began to stir. Lights flickered across the bridge. Systems hummed softly as circuits came alive. Eli guided Mara to the pilot's seat. Try this, he said, pointing to the engine controls. She hesitated but then activated the main thrusters. A low roar filled the engine chamber. Sparks flew as old conduits carried power and the ship shivered as if stretching after a long sleep. Mara's eyes widened. It works, Eli grinned. Not just works. Wait until we push it further. The next days were a blur of work. Humans from the colony, pilots, engineers, programmers, joined Eli. Word had spread that he was doing the impossible, and now Zyra 7 had become a hive of activity. Humans scavenged parts, improvised repairs, and shared ideas. Together, they worked tirelessly to transform the Harbinger from a forgotten relic into something formidable. Even the Chiron patrols remained unaware. They still considered the ship harmless, dismissing Zyra 7 as a backwater with no threat. And yet, the humans worked in secret, their ingenuity turning every weakness into strength. Eli focused on the power core next. The original engine was designed for brute force, but too many systems relied on it in its original state. Eli decided to upgrade it using a hybrid system, human intuition and alien scavenged tech. He connected the old plasma conduits to an adaptive energy regulator he had designed himself. It was risky. If it failed, the Harbinger could explode. But Eli was confident. Humans thrived on risk, on turning the improbable into reality. He tapped the final connection and the core hummed to life. A low vibration ran through the ship, spreading from the engines to the hull. The Harbinger had awakened fully. Mara looked around the bridge. It feels alive. Good, Eli said. It should. That's exactly how it should feel. As the ship came online, Eli ran simulation tests. Old targeting programs blinked back to life. Weapons were operational but not at full capacity. That would come later. For now, it was enough that the ship could move, could respond, could survive. The humans aboard the ship began to understand something important. The Harbinger wasn't just metal and circuits. It was a reflection of their spirit, stubborn, resilient, creative. Where the Chiron saw a dead ship, humans saw opportunity. On the third night, the quiet hum of the orbital station was interrupted by a new signal. Mara's console beeped urgently. Eli, a Chiron patrol is inbound. They're coming closer this time. Eli moved to the observation deck. Through the viewports, he could see sleek black Chiron ships scanning the area. They were fast, precise, and deadly, but they weren't expecting anything. They didn't expect humans to still be here, much less working on a ship that should have been dead decades ago. They think this place is abandoned, Eli muttered. That's exactly why they'll be surprised. Mara looked nervous. Do we fight them? The ship isn't fully armed. Eli shook his head. Not yet. Right now we survive. If they detect us, we hide. If they come too close, we show them what humans can do with scraps and courage. He activated the Harbinger's stealth systems. Though primitive compared to modern ships, they were enough to mask the vessel from Chiron sensors. The ship slid silently through orbit, its massive hull reflecting the distant light of Zyra 7's sun. Hours passed. The Chiron ship scanned and moved on, unaware of the sleeping giant in orbit. Eli and Mara exhaled in relief. For now, they had avoided disaster. But Eli knew this was only the beginning. "The Harbinger is awake," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "And soon it will be ready to show the galaxy what humans are capable of." Mara smiled faintly. "You really think a ship this old can make a difference?" Eli placed a hand on the main console. "It's not about the ship, it's about the humans on it, and humans we never give up." As Zyra 7's sun set behind the horizon, the Harbinger gleamed faintly, its engines humming softly. Inside, humans worked tirelessly, repairing, reforging, and reimagining a ship that was meant to die. They were creating something stronger, faster, smarter, a symbol of humanity's unyielding spirit. The Chiron still saw humanity as weak, scattered, and outdated. They had no idea what was rising in Zyra 7 orbit, and in the darkness of space, Eli whispered to the ship one last time for the night. "Tomorrow, we begin the next step. We're going to turn you into something they'll never forget." The Harbinger waited, patient and silent. For the humans aboard, failure was not an option. For the galaxy beyond, underestimating humanity would soon become a mistake. Humans had begun to write their legend, not with conquerors' weapons, but with creativity, courage, and the stubborn refusal to let the impossible die. The cold darkness of space stretched endlessly around Zyra 7. The Harbinger, once a forgotten relic, now gleamed under the dim light of distant stars. Inside, Eli Voss and his team worked tirelessly, their hands and minds moving in perfect rhythm. Every wire, every panel, every engine module was tuned, tested, and reinforced. The ship was no longer just metal and circuits. It was a weapon, a shield, and a testament to human ingenuity. But Eli knew the real test was coming. Reports came from the observation decks. The Chiron patrol had returned, this time in force. Sleek black ships moved with terrifying precision, scanning the orbit for signs of human activity. Their sensors were advanced, but their arrogance was greater. To the Chiron, humans were weak, predictable, and obsolete. They had no idea what waited for them. "Eli, they're closing in," Mara said, her voice tight with worry. "What do we do?" Eli leaned over the control panel, eyes scanning the approaching ships. "We survive first," he said. "Then we show them what humans can do." He tapped into the Harbinger's systems, activating the engines. The ship vibrated as power surged through circuits, testing every weld, every modification. The old hull shivered under the strain, but it held. This ship had been written off, left to die. But now it had life, and it had humans who refused to quit. As the Chiron ships approached, Eli activated the Harbinger's stealth systems, a combination of rerouted energy flows and old cloaking tech scavenged from derelict ships. The patrol's sensors blinked over empty space, failing to detect the massive ship lying in wait. Mara's eyes widened. "It's working." Eli didn't answer. His focus was on the strategy. "They don't expect creativity," he murmured. "They never do. That's how we win." The first engagement began when a Chiron ship drifted too close. Eli guided the Harbinger silently behind it, using improvised thrusters to maintain a perfect position. When the ship was directly above the patrol, he activated a small EMP device, scavenged and modified from old human tech. The Chiron ship shuddered violently, systems sparking. It spun out of control, engines failing. Mara couldn't hide her smile. It worked. Eli shook his head, a grim smile on his face. One down, still many to go. The patrol realized something was happening too late. By the time their sensors recalibrated, the Harbinger had struck again, using human ingenuity to turn its weaknesses into advantages. The old ship's size and unusual design allowed it to maneuver unpredictably, something the Chiron's rigid algorithms could not anticipate. Inside the Harbinger, humans worked with seamless coordination. Pilots took improvised positions, engineers rerouted power to shields and weapons, and programmers modified targeting systems on the fly. Every action was precise but flexible. Where the Chiron relied on strict routines, humans adapted instantly. "Eli," Mara said, pointing to the main viewport, "they're regrouping." "Good," Eli replied. "That means they'll make a mistake, always do when they think they're in control." The Chiron ships formed a tight formation, expecting the Harbinger to engage in predictable ways. Eli grinned. Time to be unpredictable. He guided the Harbinger into a rapid descent, weaving through the patrol's formation with impossible agility. The ship's massive hull bent under the strain, but Eli had reinforced it in the most critical spots. Energy shields absorbed minor damage, and improvised decoys drew enemy fire away from vital systems. The Chiron fired relentlessly, but the Harbinger seemed to anticipate their moves. Every strike that should have crippled the old ship bounced harmlessly off improvised shielding. Every maneuver left the Chiron frustrated, their advanced targeting systems failing against human creativity. "They're good," one Chiron officer hissed through comms. "Too adaptable, too unpredictable." Eli watched the enemy ships carefully. He didn't just want to survive, he wanted to turn the tide. Using a combination of old navigation tricks and human intuition, he led the patrol into a narrow asteroid field near Zyra 7. The Chiron ships, confident in their sensors and calculations, followed. The asteroid field became a deadly maze. The Chiron ships struggled to maneuver, colliding with debris and each other. Meanwhile, the Harbinger glided through effortlessly. Eli had memorized the paths, using subtle gravitational pulls and human-calculated trajectories that the Chiron had never imagined. Mara's voice was excited but tense. "They're hitting each other. Humans adapt," Eli said quietly. "Aliens calculate. There's the difference." The first real battle was turning in humanity's favor, but the Harbinger had limits. Despite its modifications, the ship took damage from minor collisions and stray fire. Sparks flew in the corridors, alarms blared, and the hum of engines became a roar as power surged to compensate. Eli and Mara ran from one system to another, repairing circuits, rerouting energy, and keeping the ship alive. Every repair was a gamble. Every second counted. But humans thrived under pressure. Their minds could solve problems that machines, and certainly the Chiron, could not. "Eli," Mara said, "if we keep this up, we might actually win." Eli didn't respond immediately. He was calculating the next move. The Chiron were formidable, but they underestimated humans, and that was the key. He guided the Harbinger through a sudden loop, dodging fire and weaving through the field, then launched a small swarm of drones adapted from old station bots. The drones distracted the Chiron ships, forcing them into collisions and miscalculations. With every passing moment, the Harbinger gained the advantage, its weapons systems coming online one by one. The first volleys from its cannons struck with precision, taking out engines and weapons on the Chiron ships. Inside the Harbinger, humans cheered quietly at each success, but Eli remained focused. Victory was not certain. The Chiron regrouped, launching a counterattack. Their fleet formed around the Harbinger, their confidence restored by numbers. They assumed humans were outmatched. Eli smiled. "Numbers don't matter when you think differently." He activated the ship's hybrid power core, overloading the shields just enough to create an energy pulse. The sudden burst threw the enemy ships off course, damaging formation and leaving gaps. Eli guided the Harbinger through the breach, striking at the enemy with unconventional tactics. The Chiron had never faced an opponent like this. No rigid formation, no predictable attack, no obedience to algorithms. They faced creativity, courage, and adaptability. Each strike, each maneuver demonstrated the unique human advantage. "Eli," Mara said, her voice tense, "we can actually beat them." "Yes," Eli said, determination burning in his eyes, "but we have to finish this before they recover. They're powerful, but they don't expect us to think fast, to act fast, to survive against impossible odds." As the Chiron ships began to retreat, battered and confused, the Harbinger's engines hummed with newfound power. The old ship, once meant to die, now led humans to victory. For the first time, the Chiron had seen what humans could do when underestimated. Eli looked at the stars outside the bridge. "They'll remember this," he said quietly, "and they'll be afraid next time." Mara nodded, eyes wide. "We actually did it. We survived." Eli smiled faintly. "Not just survived. We proved something. Humans aren't weak. We adapt, we create, we fight, and we never give up." The Harbinger floated in orbit above Zyra 7, battered but victorious. Inside, humans celebrated quietly, repairing minor damage and tending to the ship's systems. Outside, distant stars twinkled, indifferent to the struggles below. But in that moment, the galaxy had seen the first real evidence of human potential. A single ship, a team of humans, and the spark of ingenuity that the Chiron could not calculate. The battle was won, but Eli knew this was only the beginning. The Chiron would come again, stronger, faster, and more determined. But now humanity had a secret weapon, a ship that was more than metal, more than circuits. The Harbinger had become a symbol of human spirit, a testament to ingenuity, courage, and resilience. And Eli Voss, the mechanic who refused to give up, was already planning the next move. The Chiron had underestimated humans. That mistake would cost them dearly in the future. For now, the Harbinger rested, alive and ready, waiting for the next challenge. Humanity had turned the tables, and the galaxy would never look at them the same way again. The stars stretched endlessly around Zyra 7. The Harbinger floated quietly in orbit, its hull scarred but alive. Inside, Eli Voss walked along the bridge, boots clanging softly against the metal floor. Around him, humans worked steadily, repairing minor damages and checking systems. They were exhausted, but their eyes shone with determination. The Chiron had retreated for now. Their patrols were damaged, and their pride had been wounded. But Eli knew they would return, stronger and more prepared. Humanity had won a small victory, but the real challenge lay ahead. "We can't wait for them to come back," Eli said, gathering the team in the main control room. "We need to show them that underestimating humans is a mistake they can't afford." Mara looked uneasy. "You want to strike at their command ships? That's impossible." "Impossible is just a word," Eli said firmly. "We have one advantage. They expect us to play by their rules. We won't. We're going to take the fight to them in a way they can't predict." The team worked tirelessly, preparing the Harbinger for the ultimate test. Eli had upgraded weapons, reinforced shields, and modified engines to push the ship beyond its original limits. Every system had been optimized with human creativity, turning the once obsolete warship into a machine the Chiron would never anticipate. The plan was risky. They would infiltrate the Chiron command fleet, strike decisively, and force the alien leaders to reconsider their assumptions about humanity. It was dangerous. Any mistake could destroy them all. But humans thrived on risk. They thrived on doing what others said couldn't be done. As the Harbinger moved out of Zyra 7 orbit, Eli looked back at the colony. Zyra 7, once forgotten, now held a symbol of human resilience. "We carry more than weapons," he said softly. "We carry proof that humans never stay down." The Chiron command fleet appeared like a dark storm on the edge of known space. Massive ships loomed, weapons glowing, sensors scanning for threats. Their officers, confident and cold, assumed humans were nowhere near capable of challenging them. They would soon learn the truth. Eli guided the Harbinger through a carefully calculated route, weaving through asteroid belts and using gravitational pulls to mask their approach. Chiron's scanners detected nothing unusual until it was too late. Suddenly, the Harbinger struck. Its weapons fired with precision, disabling key systems on the nearest command ship. Mara and the team cheered quietly, but Eli stayed focused. "Keep moving," he ordered. "We're not done yet." The Chiron retaliated immediately, but their attacks were disorganized. The Harbinger, small and agile compared to their massive ships, dodged every strike. Every move was calculated, yet unpredictable. The Chiron had never faced an opponent that combined strategy with adaptability. Inside the command ship, Chiron officers barked orders, trying to anticipate human tactics. Sensors recalculated, weapons retargeted, but the Harbinger always stayed one step ahead. It struck where the enemy was weakest, avoided their strongest weapons, and exploited gaps in formation. "Eli, they're trying to trap us," Mara warned, pointing at the tactical display. "If we miscalculate, we could be destroyed." Eli's hands flew over the controls. "We won't miscalculate. Trust in the ship and trust in each other." With precise maneuvers, the Harbinger slipped through the trap, striking the command ship's engines directly. Explosions lit the void, debris scattering like deadly fireworks. The Chiron were stunned. Their most advanced officers could not believe a single human ship had disabled a command vessel. But Eli wasn't finished. Using the Harbinger's hybrid engines and adaptive systems, he executed a maneuver that combined speed, stealth, and timing. He sent small drones ahead, each carrying EMP pulses and explosives. The drones disrupted communications and disabled weapons systems across the fleet. The Chiron fleet, once confident and organized, descended into chaos. Their ships collided, weapons misfired, and panic spread among their crews. Humans on the Harbinger, calm and coordinated, took full advantage of the confusion. "Eli, we're doing it," Mara shouted over the comms. "We're actually doing it." Eli nodded, eyes sharp on the tactical screens. "Yes, but stay focused. This isn't over until they realize humans are not weak." In a daring final move, Eli guided the Harbinger directly to the central command ship. Shields held, weapons fired, and the old warship executed a near-impossible boarding maneuver, using grappling hooks, magnetic clamps, and human ingenuity to latch onto the alien vessel. Inside the command ship, Chiron officers were in disbelief. Their most advanced security measures failed. Humans, small and underestimated, were inside, moving quickly, disabling critical systems. Every calculated defense melted under the unpredictable tactics of human minds. Eli and his team worked efficiently, hacking, rerouting, and disabling systems. The Chiron had never encountered opponents who adapted in real time, improvised solutions, and acted with relentless courage. Humanity had taken the fight to them, and now the tide had fully turned. The command ship, crippled and confused, had no choice but to retreat. The remaining Chiron vessels fled, leaving behind debris and shattered pride. Humanity had not only survived, they had won decisively. As the Harbinger floated among the wreckage, Eli looked out at the stars. "They'll think twice before underestimating us again," he said quietly. Mara stood beside him, exhausted but smiling. "You did it," she said softly. "We did it." "No," Eli corrected gently. "The ship did it, and we helped." But it was humans, their creativity, courage, and determination, that made this victory possible. That's the part the Chiron will never understand. Back on Zyra 7, colonies across human space received reports of the Harbinger's triumph. Humans, once thought weak and scattered, had struck fear into a mighty alien race. The legend of the Harbinger spread quickly, inspiring hope, pride, and unity. Humanity was no longer merely surviving, they were a force to be reckoned with. Eli walked through the repaired corridors of the Harbinger, touching the consoles and panels with quiet reverence. Every repaired wire, every reinforced panel, every innovation had contributed to their victory. The ship once meant to die had become a symbol, a reminder of what humans could achieve when underestimated. Mara joined him at the observation deck. "What now?" she asked. Eli gazed at the stars, determination in his eyes. "Now we keep building, keep creating, and keep surprising the galaxy. The Chiron learned a lesson today. Humans never stay down, and neither will we." Outside, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. The Harbinger, alive and victorious, floated silently in orbit, a monument to human ingenuity and spirit. The galaxy had seen the first true proof. Humanity, when united and clever, could defy impossible odds. Eli turned back to his team, who were already making plans for future upgrades. "We have work to do," he said. "The galaxy is bigger than we thought and there are more challenges ahead. But no matter what comes, humans will rise, always." And in the vast emptiness of space, a single truth echoed: never underestimate humanity. The Harbinger, once obsolete, had become a legend, and its legend had only just begun.